Can you hear me now? I think it's gone. All right, medium number 2, experiment number 2, is a combination of watercolor techniques that you learned from the worksheet, which I've started on mine. The watercolor sheet, you are going to now create a background, a whole background using watercolors. It can look like anything. Can I show yours real quick? So Jake started playing around with the watercolor techniques and used the salt. Use the salt and some different dripping techniques on his. So you're going to create a watercolor background. After you've created your watercolor background, you are going to take this stuff right here. It's called gel medium. Does anybody know what gel medium is?
Gel medium.
Yes, correct. Maddie Deal. Very good. Gel medium is just acrylic paint with no color. This is what the base of acrylic paint is, but it has absolutely no pigment in it. No white, no nothing. It's clear. It acts as like a glue, an adhesive. So what you need to do is on top of your watercolor painting, we need to seal it with something that's waterproof, which this is, because watercolor, if I were to spray any water on this right now, it would affect the look of my painting, which we don't want that to happen. So you're going to paint just one layer, and it needs to be dry or else it's going to mix in with this. You paint it on top of a surface, your watercolor surface. And it does dry clear. So this background that I have is watercolor. It dries clear. So the next thing I want you to do is, again, remember you have a theme for this second one. Once you've decided on your theme, I will print out more pictures for you. I will print out pictures for you. I've chosen just this brain one that I had, because sometimes I feel like I'm missing my own, so why not have a photocopy of one? You're going to cut it out somewhat around the edge, but not, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm not going to be using this whole piece. Alright, so I'm not going to care too much because I'm only going to use part of this. So once you have your gel medium, if this is still wet, that's a good thing. I'm going to add a teeny bit more to mine. Just a teeny bit more. Just to make sure it's nice and wet. And before you do this step, you need to make sure you know where you're placing your image. Otherwise, once you stick it down, you're kind of stuck with it there. So I'm going to place mine. Oh, the other thing I forgot to tell you about this is whatever you're doing, it is going to print. If you're doing words or if it's important that the order of it matters, you have to flip it vertically or horizontally because it's going to be the reverse when you go to do the transfer. So whatever you're doing, if it matters, you need to make sure you reverse the image. So then I place it down on my image, on my watercolor background. Where'd my little card go? It's okay. And I'm just going to use, thank you. I'm going to use a card again to kind of push it all the way to the edges, getting it nice and stuck. I'm just burnishing it with my fingers. You do not want to get any of the gel medium on top of this paper, or else it will not peel off for you. So I'm going to stick this all down. Smooth it all down and get it nice and stuck. You're essentially gluing this to the paper. Gluing it down. And then what you're going to do is you're going to let it sit overnight. So, Jake, can I hand that one to you? Okay, so yesterday we had a student try this, and here's what we came up with. We had one experiment with just the gel medium, and then another one with a different kind of medium, which ended up turning his watercolor white. So if you don't want it to lighten it, we're not going to use that one. So We're going to see what happens when you do the next step. The next step, his has been sitting overnight. You're going to get a sponge and a bucket of water again, and you're going to just dampen the picture. And you're going to let the water sit for just a minute. And I'm going to do both of these together. So dampen the picture, and we're going to see if they work. Okay, so let it sit for a minute, and then with your finger, you're going to very gently start peeling the paper off. Just like with the tape transfer, except there's no tape under this time. There is your background, your watercolor background, and the goal with this is only the ink should stick to the gel medium. The rest of the stuff we're going to get off of here. But you have to be careful because there is a chance that you can end up peeling into the ink, and then you'll probably be upset and want to start over, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to go with this because it's practice. So you're going to very gently, and I'm not trying to get it all off at once. I'm going to do it in stages. I'm going to get just a little pieces at a time, and then just like again with the tape transfer, if all the stuff wasn't coming off again, what did you do? Yeah, you add a little bit more water. You add more water. All right, so this is called a photo transfer. People do this a lot for like gifts and stuff. You can do it with any images. That's why it's kind of a popular thing to do. People do these for, photographs. You can do just about anything with a photo transfer. But for our purposes, it needs to be a photocopy. And so his fish has come out. That came out really well. So you did well. You will notice the darker the image, though, the harder it is to do the transfer. It's just one of those things that tends to peel off a little bit more. So now we're going to try the second one that we did with a different kind of gel medium. I'm not going to guarantee it's going to work, but it might. It's kind of working, actually. Yeah, it's working. But it did make his image, see how it peeled off right there? I peeled too much. That can happen. So you just got to start gentle. And then once it starts peeling off that one area, stay away from it or else it'll just continue to go, which you don't really want to happen. So this one didn't work as well, which is good to know. We're going to use the gel medium. You can do this same technique with just regular Mod Podge. People have done it before with just straight up Elmer's glue. You can use just about anything, but so the goal is a photocopy transfer on top of a watercolor background depending on whatever theme you choose next. But again, this doesn't have to be finished when you're done with the transfer. You can add finishing touches, you can do paint marker, you can do more watercolor embellishments, you can do a whole lot to it. So it is important though that you make sure you let it dry completely and that the glue is covering the whole area so that all pieces come out. When this is dry again, you're going to take your paintbrush and the gel medium and just paint one more little layer on top of it all to seal it all together. Any questions? Okay, that's a gel transfer. You can try that when you're done with your watercolor experiments.